I live in Dos Palos. It is a small town located in the middle of California that is mainly comprised of Mexican immigrant workers and a Spanish-speaking community. Hi, my name is Ace. I am a third year at Harvard, currently studying statistics and government, and I am part of the community that is known as the first generation low-income community. I grew up speaking Spanish at home and English outside of my home, so it has always been a balance between managing both my home culture and the nation I was growing up in. That meant that I became a translator a lot of the time for my parents and for my community, as they predominantly speak Spanish. And so it was really difficult to, manage both assimilating to American society yet simultaneously maintaining my Hispanic roots. As I continued to grow up in this area, I faced a lot of minor racism, nothing too outright, but I could definitely feel how my peers were treated differently, especially my Mexican peers. Even though I was one of the best students in my area, I still felt this sense of helplessness, and I can't even imagine what the rest of my peers felt, especially those who did not have the resources that I did or did not have the opportunity to excel in their classes the way that I did. And that is the mindset that has unfortunately plagued my area, because when you lack so many tools that others have, you just lose the ability to imagine a better future for yourself. I and my family are just one example of the many in these areas that struggle with language barriers. Everything is in English in the United States for the most part, so it is really difficult. A lot of the local leaders are not actually representative of the majority of the population here, so they don't know what problems the majority face, and they don't concentrate on solving them. So our voices in this area continue to be unheard, and honestly that is the main issue in my community. And so I felt that I wanted to change that, and I am still working towards trying to change that. And what it will take is not only myself but also others. And in trying to seek leadership skills and just trying to bulk up my own experiences as a student and learner, I found an organization in my local area that sought to provide that to students, which led me on a 28-day excursion through Sequoia and Yosemite, which are both mountain areas in California. Through that program, I found a passion in politics and society. Isolated from people, I could solely rely on my fellow peers, and this opportunity led me to another one, local nonprofit that supported local communities in obtaining affordable drinking water. And so I began to explore how I could help my community, and that landed me at my state capitol during a press conference where I spoke about how my community lacked the bare minimum that so many others took for granted, which meant accessible, affordable, safe drinking water. Along with that, I began to explore voting rights in my area and why so many people lacked the motive or the motivation to vote, and why there was so little change in our local politics. Ultimately, these experiences landed me at Harvard, and I cannot express how thankful I am for the opportunity to further my education. I'm a first-generation low-income college student, so that means I am the first student in my family to attend college, and that I'm coming from a low-income area. And this was already very difficult to manage, entering the college setting, but even more so at Harvard, which is an institution that has been around for such a long time. It is one of the oldest universities of the world, and it has been both a blessing and a curse to navigate this academic space as an FGLI student. My first day on Harvard's campus was shocking, to say the least. So many of my peers had parents and grandparents that had gone to Harvard before them, and it was already overwhelming for me to be the first in my family to attend any college, much less Harvard. And so it was a big culture shock. And with seeing my peers and the differences in our backgrounds, I realized just how many resources are available to youth across the United States, yet so inaccessible to people who are coming from places like me. Upon experiencing this culture shock, I re-solidified my efforts in giving back to my community. I want to better the future for my community. I don't want anyone coming from my background or any similar background to struggle the same way that I have struggled. I'm hoping to alleviate those burdens. I've obtained a lot of different skills, which are very helpful, but ultimately the main lesson that I've pulled away from everything is that you always have to try. No matter how unqualified you feel or how impossible the task is, you need to try. I'm just one of so many students that has been able to overcome the challenges that they've faced in life and the hopeless mindset that nothing will ever change. And yet there are still so many that continue to suffer from the consequences of bad circumstances. Ultimately, do always need is optimism and hope for the future. You stagnate the more that you think that nothing will change. And hope is the drive for change. You never know what can happen. You never know whether you might just be the person that someone is looking for, or the candidate for a job that that a company needs. And so trust me, it is always good to try, and the regret that follows from not trying is so much worse than any sting of rejection.